I'm Michael Bain, and welcome to this week's Triggered. Coming to you as usual from Dragon House Studios here at the secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains. And today, I thought I'd talk about the Holy Grail. You know, like Monty Python and the Holy Grail and that other, I don't know, Arthur Guinevere Round Table, whatever, romance novel. But every shooter, every hunter, every gun collector, every gun nerd that I've ever known has a Grail gun, a Holy Grail, a gun that they've always got one eye out for in the hopes that they stumble on it at exactly the same time they have enough money to purchase it. Now, it might not be $500,000 worth of Holland & Holland. It might be some kind of gun that resonated with them from earlier in their life. So today, I wanted to show you my Grail gun. This is a Winchester 1895 in 405 Winchester. It's a new gun. It's made obviously by Winchester, which is owned by Browning at their Moroku factory in Japan, who make, to me, some of the finest guns in the world. It's a certain irony that some of the best guns that I own are made in a country where they can't have them, they can't own them. It is John Browning's last lever action. He designed this after the 1894, which used 30-30, the very first smokeless powder centerfire cartridge in a rifle. But he found that a lot of the hunters of the time were looking at some of the early bolt guns, and they were using Spitzer bullets, obviously the pointy bullets, a lot more range, a lot more stability, shoot a little flatter than great big chunks of lead. So hunters wanted to be able to shoot those bullets in a lever action rifle. So John Browning designed the 1895. You'll notice there's no tubular magazine here. There is an internal 4-round magazine that allows you to use whatever kind of bullets you want as long as you stay within the overall maximum length. Why would something this prosaic be my Grail gun? Always goes back to being a kid. I read Theodore Roosevelt's African Game Trails when I was a kid, and I said, wow, what a gun. And when I finally had a chance to shoot one, I'd shot my father's 1894 30-30 a lot, but I finally got a chance to shoot 1895 and 405 shooting old Winchester heavy-duty ammunition, and I think I was an early teenager, threw it up to my shoulder, pulled the trigger, and it was like being kicked by a mule. Original gun had curved metal butt plate and a stock designed to inflict pain. But somehow that lodged in my head, and it percolated around. I just never had a chance to buy an original. Now, Winchester made these guns until 1932 and then discontinued them. And then in 2000 came back and said, okay, we're going to do a run of them. We're going to keep them in regular production. Well, the problem is nobody wanted them, right? The gun never really sold a lot commercially when it came out, 133 commercial units. Most of the guns were sold to the Russian Imperial Army in 7.62 by 54 rims, same as the Mosin Nagant. And the funny thing was the Russians, when they got the guns, they tested them and said they all failed. And Winchester went, how did you test them? And they said, they all failed. Winchester had sent them gauges to test these guns, make sure they were in spec, but the Russians wouldn't use them because they weren't made in Russia. So the Russians said, it's no good, stock bad, whatever. But anyway, Winchester took those guns back, sold them on the open market. But every few years, Winchester makes a short run of these. And I made sure that my name was on the list. Well, recently, my name came up. And I was able to get, I love this gun already. It's a beautiful gun, which is typical of Moroku. The bluing is just magnificent. Everything is very, very precise. It's #1 walnut. It's fitted the modern way. I would rather have it fitted the old way, but that's just me. It, as I said, 4 rounds in the magazine, maybe 1 in the chamber. The concessions to modern design, it has a rebounding hammer. After the hammer falls, hits the primer, then it rebounds so that you could never have the chance of the hammer sitting on a live primer. It also has a tang safety, but we all have to live with that. And besides that, you could not put a tang sight on a 405 Winchester in 405, because if you did, you would be wearing that sight. But it was Teddy Roosevelt's story that sold me on this gun. And I was rekindled when I wrote the Gun Stories with Joe Mantegna episode on Theodore Roosevelt's 1909 Safari. That episode is one of the highest rated gun stories we ever did, and I just loved it. Teddy loved Winchester guns, the repeating rifles. The story goes because his vision wasn't very good, right? And he had this wonderful line, which is, I don't know how to shoot good, but boy, I know how to shoot often. And with a Winchester gun, Teddy could shoot often. On his safari, in addition to his big Holland double rifle, he took 2 Winchester 95s in 405 and shot what we would consider these days a staggering number of game, including rhinoceroses, which at that point, 1909, they were not endangered, lions, which gave this gun its name, and pretty much everything else there that he saw in Africa. The reason lions named this gun, a lot of people look at this gun and say, oh, that's TR's big medicine. No, he never said that. What he said, and this is quoted in African Games Trail, is his PH saw a huge lioness drop down into a donga, and it was right about dusk. So the PH grabbed his double rifle. He said to TR, grab your double rifle because it's almost dark and this is going to be close work. And Roosevelt said, nope, I am taking the 95 and 405 because it has been my medicine gun for lions. And that's why Larry Potterfield built one. He took an old 1895 and completely restored it in the way only Larry could do. A little piece at a time, absolute perfection. I've shot the gun. It's a wonderful, wonderful gun. Shoots incredibly well. But he took it to Africa specifically to hunt lion, the same as TR. So when we come back, I'm going to talk to you a little about the 405 Winchester cartridge and why it's my little trial in life. This week's Triggered is brought to you by Taurus, designed to protect. Franklin Armory, some of the coolest guns in America. Ammo Man, still offering $10 off any order of $150 or more with the promo code TRIGGERED. And Lipsy's and their wonderful Guns of the Month. Welcome back to Triggered, where we're talking about my Grail gun, the 1895 Winchester in this, the 405 Winchester cartridge. First, another quick story. A few years back, I was in Louisiana. We were filming Jerry Michelick's show, Shootout Lane, and I was there with Jim Clark Jr., a good friend of mine now who has passed. But Jim and I kind of came up together through IPSC, and he was showing me a double rifle that he built for himself to take to Africa, which he used on Cape Buffalo. And it was in 405. And I said, well, why'd you go to 405 and not something like 450, 400 or one of the bigger nitros? And he goes, because I wanted a double rifle that I could walk into the Ace Hardware and buy rounds for it. I thought, wow, that makes a lot of sense. So I get my Grail gun, right? Winchester calls me. They say, you want it? I said, yeah. They send me the gun. I immediately go to buy ammunition. It turns out it's not available in the Ace Hardware. It turns out it's not available anywhere on Earth. When Winchester reintroduced the gun in 405 in 2000, Hornady came out with 405 dangerous game ammunition. 300 grain bullet, absolutely super rounds. But remember what I said, the gun didn't sell. People weren't clamoring for 405 ammunition, except maybe Jim Clark Jr. So Hornady eventually did limited runs and then no runs at all. So I now have a 405 and I said, wow, okay, I'll buy brass and I'll assemble the cartridges. I can do that. Not so fast. Hornady made the brass. And the only ones I could find were on Gunbroker, with an exorbitant number attached to them. I actually saw one 405 cartridge going for $3.95, same as 7.5 FK. That's really weird. I kept looking. Finally, a friend said, hey, Buffalo Arms, who specializes in obsolete stuff, has brass that were made from the British Bertram, maybe the Australian Bertram brass. Essentially, they formed a 405 case and then stamped it here to say 405 Winchester. And they're yours. You can get those cases. I called Buffalo Arms. They had 40 cases left, for which I paid, with shipping, $150. So I got bullets. That's one of the reasons the gun failed, is it's 405, but its actual diameter is .411. So it's the only gun out there that used that dimension, which didn't exactly increase its popularity. So I started loading this puppy. Oh, good grief. The Bertrand brass is finicky. It's like shooting old or reloading old 3840 brass. Flimsy at the neck. I destroyed count them, 4 pieces of brass setting up my presses for this. And at $3.95 a piece, you're like, ow, that really hurts. But I finally got it. This is a 325 grain lead bullet. And I started low. I'm using accurate 57-44 powder, which is really good for reduced loads. And I managed to actually run up this and one other. I have 2. But friends are friends, and they have been finding me ammunition all over the country. Talk about that when we get back.
The revolutionary TCM from Rock Island Armory. Fire it once and you'll be hooked. The first thing you'll notice is its sonic boom and enormous muzzle flash as it hurls the exclusive Armscore 22 TCM round downrange at a blistering 2,000 feet per second with penetrating impact. It shoots surprisingly easy with light recoil. The 17-round TCM series, so fun to shoot, it's like a thrill ride, only better.
Welcome back to Triggered and my Grail gun, the 1895 Winchester and 405 Winchester. By the way, the trigger pull on this thing is super. Little heavy, 5-6 pounds, but it's very crisp, very little take up. I have no problem with that at all, and I'm pissy about lever gun triggers, as you guys know. When I went on the internet, went on Facebook, went on some of the forums and said, I got a 405 Winchester, and unfortunately, what I don't have is ammunition. It's great to have friends. Bryce Towsley, of course, the author of Prepper Guns, a book that if you do not have, you need to have immediately. And also, he's got a great book that just came out recently on gunsmithing modern guns. You want to see that. Bryce called me up and he goes, dude, I may have a box of original Hornady 300 grain. You want me to send it to you? I said, yeah. And he goes, send me some books of your books that you've written. I said, we're on that, Bryce. And then my friend Rob Elliott, who sits with me on the Rimfire Challenge Shooting Association, calls me up and he goes, I went into a pawn shop in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and there on the shelf between the 4570 and the 458 Magnum were 2 boxes of Hornady 300 grain 405. He goes, you want me to buy them? I'm like, hurry, Rob. Immediately called the pawn shop, bought those 2 boxes. And then my dear friend Marshall Holloway, one of my best friends in the entire world ever, he went to his brother-in-law's shop, which sells on Gunbroker, and it's one of the top sales operations on Gunbroker. And he says, you're buying a lot of lots of estate sales. Do you have, by chance, any 405 Winchester? And he goes, I don't know, let's go in the back and look. And I've been in the back of his shop. It's the most wonderful place in the world. You could spend days in the back of his shop because he buys, again, great big lots, and there'll be like 3 by 3 foot cubes full of guns. But he also went through the boxes of ammo that he had purchased and nobody wanted. Lo and behold, 3.5 boxes of Hornady 300 grain ammo. So honestly, if I have 3.5 plus 2 plus 1, if I have that many loaded rounds and brass, that literally is all I will ever use. I think I have 60 rounds of 450, 400, several hundred rounds of 4570, which is my go-to. But I am looking forward to shooting this gun. And again, my plan initially is to start low. Whenever you start working with big boomers, this is a piece of advice, write this down. When you start reloading for boomers, whether it's pistol, 454 Casull, 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum, or it's rifle, where you're doing some of a double rifle, you're doing 458 Winchester Magnum, which is a thrill in and of itself in a Ruger Tropical rifle, and you're reloading, start low. In fact, start with the lowest load recommended by a reputable reloading book for that powder and bullet combination, because one never knows. The big boomers are specialty type items. So for this guy, when I started reloading it, I went to the Hornady manual and using, like I said, 5744. The reason I like 5744 for this particular application, it's a very fast powder, and one of its specialties is loading light loads for large boomer cartridges, like 44-7, 50-110, fill in the blank. I got this idea I was going to do light loads in a 450-400. No, that's not going to work. That's a whole other story. So I started at the very bottom with 450-400. I've now had one test shot, worked like a champ, scared everyone, and didn't knock me down. I figured the velocity, 325 grain bullet, call it 1,600 feet per second, until I run it through my chronograph, my lab radar, I don't know. But that's what I'm betting, because that's what the book said, and that's what it felt like to me. So I'm very excited to have this gun as my Grail gun. I'm hoping we see a little decoration with it as we kind of go down the road. Like I said, a different finish on this wonderful wood, maybe a little fitting marble. This has obviously buckhorn sights, and if you look here, this is a marble gold bead front sight. Marble made a peep sight specifically for this gun. It's really ugly. It's like a long lever and it goes up and down here, but the new Winchester 1895s are in fact drilled and tapped for a reproduction of that marble peep sight. I've shot one of these with a marble peep sight, worked really well, so we may go down that path. If you have a Grail gun, there's always hope. There's always hope. You're going to go to a gun shop, you're going to go to a pawn shop, you're going to go somewhere, and they're going to have that gun for you. And you know what? I think, I'm very excited, I think this is worth the wait. I'm Michael Bain. You can find Triggered on michaelbain.tv. You can find us on YouTube, of course. You can find us on my celebrity page on everest.com very soon, plus back episodes of Shooting Gallery and The Best Defense. Kind of cool. And we'll have some other announcements as we go through the summer at home. We'll see you next week.